Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. The Christmas period has started, racing under the floodlights in Mol around the Zilvermeer, and with me here to discuss the 5th round of the Exactcross series is Issam.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Before we get going, today we have a giveaway to be announced. We are giving away 3 variety packs of LMNT, the great salt you need to stay salty and start your day with a nice and awake feeling. Helps you for when you go cycling, when you just watch cross, whatever you do, it helps you kickstart your day. All you need to do is write to Noah at cyclocross with 3s's.com and tell us why you would like to win the package of LMNT, and who knows, you might be lucky and we can send you one of the variety packs of LMNT. Then the racing in Mol. It was hyped as the first battle between the big 3 in the Christmas period, and the race didn't disappoint in terms of that. The fastest start was for Thibaut Nys, and after a quick takeover by some of the Fluo boys, playtime was over. Van der Poel took over the lead in the second lap and upped the pace. We went to a situation with 5 leaders, besides Van der Poel, of course, his rival Wout van Aert right in his wheel, but in the wheel of Van Aert was the world champion Pidcock, together with Hermans and Sweeck. We had a leading group of 5 for a while. Pidcock then eliminated himself and Laurens Sweeck from the leading group. In the corner before the second pit zone, Pidcock made a mistake and needed to get off his bike a lot earlier than Wout van Aert, Matheiu van der Poel and Quinten Hermans. Sweeck, who was behind Pidcock, couldn't get past him and also needed to dismount. These 2 were dropped, and that was the sign for Van der Poel to accelerate a bit more. This also led to Quinten Hermans dropping, which meant that Van der Poel and Van Aert were leading together. For a while they stayed together. Van Aert came under pressure once when Van der Poel managed to ride through the corner before the second pit zone and a significant way along the second pit zone in the sand as well. Van der Poel, however, ran into a pack of back markers and therefore was unable to elaborate and create a significant gap. This was a sign for Van Aert to start taking the lead through this section, and he did so. Eventually in the 6th lap, this led to Van Aert being in the lead up the sand dune. Van der Poel made one of his first mistakes of the race there. He was unable to ride to the top. This gave Wout van Aert a gap of 5 seconds. Van der Poel tried to close that gap, but on the running section, Van Aert was way faster. He put in a fast sprint and made that gap 10 seconds. Van der Poel's head went down from there on, and Van Aert went on to win his second cross of the season in Mol. Van der Poel ended second. In the group behind, there was still a feisty battle for the 3rd place on the podium. Pidcock around halfway through the race was dropped. Hermans had a pretty big gap, but then eventually got caught by Sweeck, and Pidcock also came back. We then don't really know what happened, but Pidcock managed to drop them and claim the 3rd spot on the podium, the absolute dream podium for the organizers in the Zilvermeer cross of Mol. Van Aert taking the win. It's been quite a while since we saw Van Aert take the win on a course like this that seemed to suit Matheiu van der Poel a bit more, at least on pure power. How do you think that happened? Because we spoke about it already and you had an interesting theory why Van Aert was able to take the win here today.
Yes, I mean, before the race, it was for me a course that suited Van der Poel a little bit more. But, when you look into the race, I think that there was one part of this course which was quite critical. Obviously, you had some sand in it, which played a role. But I think that the running section in the second sand passage, which is with the as well where you also can change the bikes, I think that there it was really that was a critical part because that was quite a long running section. I think that Van Aert in the second lap, if I'm not mistaken, put them under pressure 2 times there in the beginning of the race, and I think that there, that is quite a long running section, and I think that the riders that are not as good as Van Aert in running, that they suffered there a little bit, had to compensate in the race, and I think that it played quite a role in this race, and that in the end, Van Aert just also being in a very good level, coming back from a training camp, he looked very good. I think that the combination of that caused eventually that Van Aert was the better guy today. And Van der Poel, in my opinion, halfway through the race, I felt that he was doing it quite well with the running as well. And if he didn't have that the difficult moment in the end, at the end of the race, I would have said that he quite improved his running. But we have to conclude that in the end, that it was not with ease, and he had to really push to stay close to Van Aert. And I think that in the end, that really cost him a little bit at the end of the race. And maybe there is more behind that, but we can conclude such things when the racing continues more this season, and if we see more of this in the coming races.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, the more I tend to agree with you, Issam, because if I look back at the course, there were indeed two really decisive features on the course. One was the sand dune, and the other one was this long running section where Van Aert put up the running pace. Like, he put a blistering pace up there running a couple of laps. Like, already in the lap that he went into the pits, there was a big pacer there. Like, it was already telling early on in the race. So yeah, I do agree that the course based on that maybe suited Van Aert more than that we thought. But nevertheless, I think that the best Van der Poel should have been able to win this. Van der Poel after the race was pretty furious with himself that he didn't win this race, and he said things need to improve, else I'll be riding behind Van Aert the entire cross season. It's been like that before. I hope I can turn the tide. Van Aert, meanwhile, before the race was downplaying his expectations. Oh, well, I had a training camp in Spain, I did a Paris-Roubaix reckon, I had a team presentation yesterday. I don't really think that influenced him too much. It was just downplaying the expectations, as Van Aert likes to do a lot. Remember that in Dublin he said he would be happy if he ended on the podium and won quite comfortably. So yeah, he was just downplaying it, obviously, and Van der Poel was probably a bit overreacting after the race. His head went down a bit too quickly. That was the one thing I didn't really like. He didn't keep pushing because he made a mistake, which happens. Everybody makes mistakes. It's just about the timing when you do so. But after he did that, yes, he tried it in the running section, but as soon as he saw the gap was like 8 seconds, he didn't really try anymore. And that was a shame because, for all you know, Van Aert makes a mistake and you're back in it.
I agree, totally. It was a weird dynamic from Van der Poel, in my opinion, that the moment the gap was made, I thought that it would be, it would be a close battle, because on a course like this, a lot is possible. We have seen that Van Aert made some mistakes. Van der Poel made some small mistakes as well. So it was, Van der Poel kind of gave up when he saw that the gap was made, and 5 seconds became 12, became 30, and from there on it was quite clear who the winner was. And I think that you shouldn't take a lot of. You shouldn't take a lot out of the gap, because Van der Poel in the last lap was, I wouldn't say cruising, but he was definitely not giving his all. And Van Aert was the same thing, but was quite consistent in his pace. But it was, in my opinion, a bit weird, and I can understand the frustration in the end after the race. I think that Van der Poel was going to Mol with the intention of winning on a course that he thought would suit him a little bit more. And I think he was a little surprised with the form of Van Aert and the way Van Aert was riding today. That I don't think he expected Van Aert to be on this level on a course like this. I think that on a course like last year, Dendermonde, it's an understandable situation. But he miscalculated that completely, because today Van Aert was the winner.
I think it's a bit too early to draw conclusions upon this, and that this means that the rest of the season will go this way with Van Aert having the upper hand over Van der Poel. I do think it's fair to conclude that the impression we had after Antwerp, where we thought, well, Van der Poel is going to come in and destroy everyone with ease like we saw in Antwerp, I think that expectation can go out of the window. They seem evenly matched, and if that's due to Van Aert keep making progression, or due to Van der Poel having a bit lower level in cross than a couple of seasons ago, that's things we can maybe discuss in a couple of weeks, because there's still plenty of time. I mean, I think Van der Poel overreacted in the emotion. As you say, he came here to win, and I've said it before, Van der Poel is a real champion. If he loses, he's going to be fuming. He is fuming at himself now. He knows that he shouldn't have made the mistake at the crucial moment. He was able to ride that hill, and then at the decisive moment, when it really mattered, he doesn't. And that hurts, because he knows that he gave it away himself. He probably thinks that, well, if I would have been able to ride that dune, then I could have stayed with Van Aert, and then I would have just finished it off in the final lap, because he probably had some trick to play. But I don't think that Van der Poel was only Was he outclassed physically? Maybe a little bit. Van Aert maybe looked a tad stronger, maybe also due to his gearing choices. But Van Aert went for the Vervekke tactic. Like, the lap that Van der Poel put Van Aert under pressure by riding this section alongside the second pit zone. Van Aert knew that, and in the laps after that, you saw that Van Aert did what he needed to do. Lead where the others can drop you, because if you lead there, the chance that they drop you there is significantly smaller. It's a tactic that Vervekke used to use a lot, and Van Aert used it today and with perfection, because, hey, if he doesn't do that, who knows, maybe that before Van Aert is under pressure again, because Van der Poel manages to ride that section and you have a different race. So Van Aert absolutely deserved the win. He didn't make the mistakes at the crucial moments. Tactically, he played it perfectly, and physically, he was right where he needed to be.
Absolutely. I mean, he did everything right. I think that's especially trying to be ahead just at the end of the first sand passage, and then you are leading in the hill section, and then you're also leading up towards the second sand section, and on the hill as well. Those are important moments to be leading, and I think Van Aert understood that very clearly. He was at the right moment at every place, and I think especially in the later part of the race, he just made sure that he was there at the right moment, and his fastest lap was quite impressive compared to the fastest lap of Van der Poel. There was quite a difference. We will see how that will play out in the next coming races.
But not only the battle for the win was interesting, maybe there was a bit of a lack of TV focus on the battle for third, which is understandable since the focus was on Van der Poel and Van Aert. But there looked to be a pretty entertaining battle for the third spot. Pidcock eventually got it, but around halfway through the race, I thought that Pidcock let his head down as well, because he was dropped pretty significantly by Sweeck. Hermans was still pretty far ahead, as he was able to follow Van Aert and Van der Poel for a longer while. Then he exploded a bit, not as much as he did in the 2020-2021 season, because then he was flying for 2 laps and blew up. But no, he did a good race coming back from a long break and now starting building towards the Worlds. But yeah, it was pretty interesting, and to be honest, a bit of a surprise that Pidcock ended third, because despite that the sand was not all too much and all too significant, he did still have enough issues in that sand and was making mistake after mistake in those sand sections.
I agree. I mean, it was a bit weird for us to see Pidcock in the end finishing third, because we could see that the two, Hermans and Sweeck, were followed close by Pidcock, but we definitely didn't see how that fight eventually played out. The broadcasting was, in my opinion, a bit poor, the coverage of it with the cameras placements and stuff, but it's an Exactcross, so we cannot expect too much from it. But I think that in the end, Pidcock probably has the bigger base of the three. I think is in good shape, and yeah, it's a bit speculative, but I think maybe in the running, in the later stages, Hermans maybe followed the guys in front, Van der Poel and Van Aert, a little bit too long. Sweeck had some difficulties in the running that didn't look great, and I think that Pidcock then, with a good form, thinking that podium was still possible, maybe he was smelling the podium and then just went for it completely, and eventually was the one on top there.
Yeah, I think Sweeck has the most to blame himself for. I mean, he looked pretty good through the sand sections, but yeah, what was he doing in terms of positioning? Because when they were in the leading group of 5, it looked like he just wanted to flex every lap. Oh, look how good I can ride through the sand. I'm just going to go into the sand section 5 meters behind the guy in 4th, close the gap so you can all see how good I am in riding sand. Of course, that's not his tactic, and that's not what he meant to do with it, but it is telling for the race he was riding. Because a rider like Sweeck, who's good in the sand, like, he only hit the front of that group once, and the only way you can make a difference is if you're in the lead of that group, else you will just be held up by the mistakes of others. How many times have we seen Sweeck try and fly up this sand dune, but there was some guy having issues halfway through or at the top, which eventually resulted in him needing to get off. There was just way too much of those mistakes, and that cost him, and to be honest, I don't think he cares too much. I was pretty surprised that he still managed to win the sprint against Hermans, who, by the way, said that he's at his lowest weight ever. where he said he was only lighter for maybe the Ardennes Classics at 63 kilos. So he's definitely coming in good form. But yeah, then still, Sweeck, good that he wins that sprint, but I don't know how much he cares, to be honest, because with the Super Prestige and World Cup, there are way more valuable races coming for him, races with much greater importance where he needs to do well. I feel like he didn't really come here with the intention to fight for victory, probably collecting some nice start money, getting a race under his belt, getting into a rhythm, but not necessarily with the greatest of mindsets.
Yeah, I think he misjudged the race a little bit in his placement, and he was unfortunate to be behind Pidcock when the guys in front were thinking about upping the pace a little. Pidcock making that mistake, and then he had nowhere to go. And I think Sweeck, running is definitely not his strongest point, and then you have to run a little longer because of that mistake. Van Aert at the front was going quite fast. Yeah, then it's going to be difficult, and I think that he maybe didn't think that it would be a race the way it played out, and I think that with the amount of mistakes that happened, it will creep in a little bit that it's only an Exactcross, and then you at a certain point you think like, okay, well, fight for first is gone and second as well, so we're just going to try, and that happens in these type of races. It doesn't happen in a race like a World Cup when you also have there is something to fight for, and I think that Sweeck is in an okay shape. He looks quite good, so I think that that there's nothing to worry about from his side, and that he will definitely race a little different in the next coming races.
Sweeck, like basically all other riders, went to Spain, did a training camp there. So yeah, he's definitely looking good, and I think he will do well. His biggest goal or opportunity this Christmas period is Koksijde. I really look forward to what he can do there. I remember when Mol first came on the calendar, people said this was going to be the new Koksijde. I don't think so, at least in the current shape. It's kind of like Lille, but then maybe with a bit more sand. But just a shame that today the conditions with the rain made it like a completely different course than the course we usually see in Koksijde, because here with the rain it didn't become muddy, but I do think that it was super draining. The ground was sucking you in, and that made it more of a power cross than a sand cross. But hey, it's fine. Fourth, still relatively close to Pidcock. There's definitely points to pick forward. For Hermans, also a decent comeback, as I said, but I do want to put the side note that Hermans does come in with this extreme freshness. He had a long break after the European Championships in Namur, which were a flop for him, but it's still, like, you come in with such freshness, that won't be lasting for the entire Christmas period. So I think that he will fall back a bit and eventually be around the level of Sweeck and Van Toerenhout. Maybe Iserbyt. Iserbyt and Van Toerenhout, by the way, didn't race because they didn't fancy 10 races in 17 days, which is completely understandable. Let's look at the entire top 10 then. Van Aert with the win ahead of Van der Poel and Pidcock. Sweeck in 4th ahead of Quinten Hermans and Thibaut Nys. 7th place for Corné van Kessel ahead of Gerben Kuipers and Timo Kielich, with the 10th place in the top 10 going to Wietse Meuse. I think we need to talk about Thibaut Nys for a bit. We know that he was out with back issues, did a long block of training in Spain. Things seem to be working. He was pretty open about his injury. It's due to a lack of core stability training, and that he picked that up again and that it should be going fine again. 6th, pretty good, but at some point in the race it looked like it would be the same old story with Thibaut of having a good start and then falling all the way back, and then you only see him towards the back end of the top 20 on the results, but nothing was worth more today as he just came back and ended 6th.
Yeah, because I could have sworn that I saw him on I think it was spot 11, 12 halfway through the race, and at that point you're going to be thinking like, okay, this is going to be one of those off days of Nys. But he got himself together and managed to finish 6th, and I think that is definitely an improvement from his side in terms of also mentally. It cannot always be your best day, but then you still have to try and make the best out of it. And I think that he managed to do just that. And it always looks better when you finish 6th than when you finish 18th. So I think that no, from his side was definitely an okay race. I think that if he was a little less eager in the first lap, he could have maybe made sure that his race was planned out a little bit better, and then he would have left a little bit more in the end, would have been a little bit closer, I think. But it doesn't really matter. I think that 6th place for him with this field was the maximum achievable, and he did just that. So that's the most positive about this, I guess.
Yeah, we saw him already outside of the top 10 at the end of, I think, the first or maybe second lap. He was riding with Haverdings, who put in a pretty good race himself, actually. He ended 12th, really good result for the first year under 23. His best result with the elites this year. Same goes for Timo Kielich. Well, it's not hard to be his best result, as he just restarted his season. Of course, he also brings in the extra freshness, but the rider from Credon Freestad, he needed to start all the way at the back. He had 0 UCI points, needed to start on the last row of the grid. And in such a big pack to then ride all the way to a top 10 spot is a really good performance. I have to say, this surprised me, and I wonder what will come from him. I haven't seen his complete calendar, but I know he will do some more races. It's super promising. We know that the talent is there in Timo Kielich. He has had some good results. I remember him being a contender at the Under-23 Belgian Championships a couple of years ago. I think he was in the top 5 in Antwerp. Did he maybe get the national title? No, he didn't get the national title, but I remember him going well in Ostend. So courses like this, Antwerp, Ostend, are probably things that suit him. But yeah, it's promising and it's good, and I guess we can only say the same for the rider who ends in front of him. Gerben Kuipers is having a pretty good season. He used to work in a factory and then train after that, but then he resigned, and the week after he resigned from his job, he won the Exactcross in Essen. Now another top 10. This man is on a mission, and his mission is to get a pro contract, and I think he is well on his way to do so.
For Kuipers, it's this season has been going well. We have seen quite some solid results from him. Essen obviously was the most notable one, I guess. A televised race, and winning with the elites. Obviously, there were some names missing, but then you still need to make sure that you win such a race, and I think that he did. That is definitely something that helps in your career, and I think that this season, really he has been one of the better under-23 riders, I think, in terms of consistently performing quite well. He's not the best, but he's definitely a very solid talent. So I think that he's riding right now with a team in Proximus. I think that there is a lot of chances for him to go to a team that maybe needs him. There's definitely possibility for that. And in terms of for Kielich is a talent that we know, quite a big talent. Had an injury that took a while to recover from, a knee injury if I'm not mistaken. And then today starting at the back, all the way coming to finish in the top 10. So I think that for him as well, that is quite an achievement, and it's a continuation of his talent, luckily for him, and hopefully we can see more from that, because there are definitely, when it's tougher for Kielich, he can really perform well. He likes to go through the tougher courses.
Yeah, to come back on Kuipers, what you mentioned is so true. There are teams that need him, and let's be honest, there's one team that needs him, and that is Tormans. Both Van Kessel and Hermans are leaving on January 1st. Thomas Mean already left. They're only left with Kevin Kuhn, and that's not going to cut it if you want to be a top tier team, at least on the men's side, because on the women's side they still have Schreiber and Modegraaf, but they need Gerben Kuipers. They should sign Kuipers, because he will do the job for them. He will get some top 10s. There's potential in him. He's still the final year under 23. This is not a case of Lander Looks, who is doing well in some mudded trophy where nobody really cares about because they prioritize Super Prestige then and the World Cup. No, he's doing proper good in races against the other riders. He beat Verstringen in Essen on his way to victory. Today he beats a couple of other names. He beats riders like Thijs Aert. I know that Tormans gambled on Thijs and Toon Aerts, but if I would choose between Thijs Aerts, because Toon is still no news on him, and in Belgium they are kind of expecting that there's going to be a 2-year ban for him. I mean, I would know who I would go for then. If you need to choose between Thijs Aerts and Gerben Kuipers, I would definitely choose for Gerben Kuipers. And after that, they should prioritize signing Clément Venturini at the end of this season, because Venturini is doing cross, also is a solid rider on the road, can help in their lead-out train for Girmay, or for whatever other sprinter they are going for maybe some flat stages. Venturini sprinted to a couple of 5th places in the Tour de France of 2020. Yeah, that's what they should focus on. That should be their top priority. Tormans should get Kuipers at the end of this season, and then on January 1st, 2024, they should sign Clément Venturini.
They should sign you, I guess, at Tormans. This because I think that you're spot on. The team is. We have not a lot of information on the team right now, but I think that would be a perfect move. I think that Proximus wouldn't be. Maybe they will be a little bit difficult. I don't know how his contract situation at the moment is.
No, he doesn't have a pro contract. That's the entire point. He quitted at the factory because he needed to take days off if he wanted to go training or if he wanted to go to foreign races. So his entire point was, I want a pro contract, and Proximus wasn't able to hand him one. So he's hunting one at another team.
Yeah, then it's clear. Then it would be foolish for Tormans to let this guy go to another team. This is probably the best signing that you can make at the moment in the category. I think for them it would be a missed opportunity. A big opportunity is lying ahead of them to sign him, because like you said, the Toon Aerts case is complicated at the moment. It doesn't look very good. So if they really want to have somebody already starting in the colors and also being somebody that has some potential, with all the respect to Thijs Aerts, but then I think that you have to put everything on Kuipers and you see where that goes. I think that's the best option for Tormans at the moment.
Final point on the men's race. I just mentioned something about Timo Kielich. I remember his standout performance now. He ended 3rd at the World Championships Under 23 in Oostende as a final year Under 23. Coincidentally enough, he did also end 3rd at the Belgian Championships in Ostend as a junior, but that was not the thing that really stood out to me. That was that medal at the World Championships behind Pim Ronhaar and Ryan Kamp. Let's go and talk about the women's race then. That was a bit less exciting than the men's race, at least that's how I thought about it. We had the fastest start for Zoe Backstedt, but already towards the end of the first lap, Shrin van Anrooij took over the lead. She placed a big attack in the second lap, and Annemarie Worst was unable to follow her. That meant that Shrin van Anrooij was in for a long solo. She led almost the entire race as the sun was setting behind the Zilvermeer lake, which meant that Shrin van Anrooij could take the win. Behind, Annemarie Worst got company from Lucinda Brandt, both riders coming back from injuries. Brandt was able to drop Worst but didn't come any closer to Van Anrooij. That meant that Brandt ended second, with Annemarie Worst ending third. Van Anrooij with the win here, Issam. I did expect her to win here. I did expect her to come back stronger from that training camp, but she certainly didn't make me look like a fool, because she A, did win, and 2, at least to me, made a super strong impression.
Yeah, she did. It was from her side. It was, the start wasn't the best, but apart from that, it was a perfect ride. Not many mistakes. It looked very good, and it looked easy. At the end, obviously, you can never use that word easy, because, it's still 45-50 minutes of racing for the women and an hour racing for the men, where you have to go quite deep to make to get the result that you want. But it looked very good. It was a relaxed way of riding around. There was a lot of souplesse. It went also easy. The running was also looking quite okay. Yeah, she looked very good. She came back from Spain with a very good form. And now is the big question: is that going to be enough? To fight for more victories against Pieterse and maybe Van Empel if she's coming back.
Yeah, still no news on Van Empel, but this definitely looked better than all I saw from Van Anrooij before the break. Yeah, it's definitely a good sign, and I think she will be able to compete. I hope she does Koksijde against... Is Van Empel doing Koksijde? Her full schedule got released, but I'm not actually too sure Koksijde was on. I know Vos is doing Koksijde, but I'm not too sure on Van Empel. But anyway, it should be fun to see her race in Koksijde, because last year it was a joy for the eye. It was a pleasure to see her ride through the sand. So smooth, so easy. Today, no different. I feel in the women's race, the sand made a bit more of a difference, but also here, as you say, the running section was so long that for Van Anrooij it must have almost felt like she went back in time a couple of years when she was still doing these athletics or duathlon races where she also needed to run. She was actually pretty good on the 800 meters and, well, maybe no 800 meters of running, but it certainly was a super long running section past pit 2.
It looked easy, and she was comfortable with the running, and that's absolutely what you needed on a course like this. And there was not a moment that I was thinking, okay, she might struggle at the end or something. It was she knew what she was doing. The pace was very consistent, and yeah, she was in control of the race from basically the moment that she was in the lead till the finish, and just a very, very good performance from her.
Yeah, it was definitely promising, and I think that all riders in the top 3 can take points from this race. Brandt in second. I think that for Brandt it looked a lot like a race in Beekse Bergen, but then at a higher form level. In Beekse Bergen, when she came back from that hand injury, there were too many mistakes, silly crashes, rusty through corners. And here there were also some silly mistakes, like in the first lap when she went up that dune and fell over her bars, and then was kind of clumsy in getting to the other side of the bike. In the sand sections there were some other silly mistakes. But on the other hand, the form level of Brandt, it did seem to have improved, and that should make sense, because if you go out for almost 3 weeks of training in Spain, do a bit of endurance training with the Trek Segafredo women's team, your form should improve. She was there with Van Anrooij. Brandt said it was no surprise to her that Van Anrooij beat her, because Van Anrooij was going super well on training. Taking a look at some Strava data, it was definitely impressive, and for the road season things are already looking promising for Van Anrooij. But Brandt, definitely not bad. She can take points forward from this, and she just needs to get into a rhythm a bit more, but I'm feeling a bit more confident about the situation Brandt is in now than before she left, like, for the training camp.
Yeah, definitely. I think the base is now made, and I think she also is, she accepted that she's a little bit behind the ladies in front, but it looked better indeed, like you said. The base is there, mistakes were a little less, it looked a little bit better, I guess, and the question is now, will it improve? Will we see a better Brandt in the next coming races, or are we going to see a weird fluctuation of races, when some races is going to be a little bit better than others? Because she's also quite fresh. She didn't do a lot of races before because of the injury. So now it's also, how is the body going to react on multiple races? I don't know what the program exactly is going to be, but I think that she will pick some. I don't think she will do all these races, but we have to wait and see how that will play out.
Yeah, she will take it day by day, just like Annemarie Worst, and I think that's the best these two riders can do. Worst definitely looked better than before the injury as well, which makes sense, because for her it was not necessarily taking rest to rebuild from an injury, it was actually recovering from an infection in her knee, and that is actually still not gone, so I'm still a bit worried about that. Today it went fine, it looked alright, but yeah, I'm not too sure how that will develop. But both riders have no classifications on the line. They can do whatever they want. They can choose their races. And I guess if they have a bad day in Gavere, for instance, they might say, well, Zolder, I'm skipping you. I'll see you in Diegem, etc. So that's the best thing they can do. If we look at the rest of the top 10, I do think there's still some interesting names to discuss. Let's run through the names first. Van Anrooij, Brandt and Worst make the podium. Just off the podium, Zoe Backstedt in 4th, ahead of Aniek van Alphen and Jara Kastelijn. 7th place for Laura Verdonschot, ahead of Clara Honsinger, Leonie Bentveld and Anna Kay. I think it's nice to see Kay, Bentveld and Verdonschot in the top 10. Honsinger maybe a tad disappointing. Van Alphen also a bit disappointing, but Van Alphen and Honsinger not their course. Verdonschot, not enough sand for her to make a difference as sand specialist. Which leaves me with 2 names I would like to discuss. Zoe Backstedt and Yara Kastelijn. Let's start with Zoe Backstedt. She is another rider that made a step forward by doing a training camp. She didn't train in Spain, she did a training camp in the United States with EF Education and came back pretty strong, because this 4th place is definitely a leap forward compared to where she was before she went on that training camp.
Absolutely. It looked very good. I was, to be honest, I was a bit worried that she might be going a little too fast at the start of the race, but she managed the race quite well. So, that just, is a confirmation of the fact that she has a good form and that training camp really helped. It looked very good. She was also very happy, and rightfully so, after the race. And I think that with such a form, you're always going to look to the next couple of races with a little more joy, because if you have some doubts about the form and then you have so many races ahead of you, it's a bit worrying. But I think with the form that she is in right now, she was quite close to Vorst, and the gap between her and Van Anrooij was not that big. So I think that she is at the moment in very good form, and interesting to see how she will use that in the next coming races, and if we're going to see more of these type of results.
And then I want to finish with Yara Kastelijn. I actually don't have too many comments on her race. It looked pretty decent. She's racing for fun. The only news I wanted to say is that she extended with Phoenix de Koning, which is the new name of Planatur Pura, the women's road race team, until 2026, 4 more years at that team. She definitely feels home, likes to have the certainty, which is good. I hope that she has some clauses in her contract that if she keeps developing on the road, that she gets a pay raise, which she then deserves, and that she isn't stuck at some underpaying wage for 4 years. But no, it's definitely good to see her stay with a team that invested in her and clearly gives her the opportunity to combine the 2 disciplines she loves the most. Then I would just like to end with a bit of a comment that I didn't make at the men's race. What a joke the 80% rule was today, and we'll only see more of it the upcoming weeks when the riders are returning in their time machine to the 80s, when they were racing between lapped riders when they weren't taken out yet. But what a mess. They did at some points even influence the race a bit when Van der Poel was gone. Even on the women's race we saw riders being lapped. They should really, really change this rule and either change their percentages or start taking riders out at the pits, because, man, it was a mess again today, and it's not the first time and it won't be the last time. Gavre, almost 100 starters on an insanely hard course. Bear yourself, there are going to be many riders that are going to be lapped there. Diegem will also have an insanely packed start list. It's going to be messy the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, repeat the story, I guess. I mean, today it was quite visible, especially on the men's side, women's side as well. But, I think on the men's side there were just a little bit more moments, I guess, which were critical. There was also quite a dangerous moment with Hermans trying to go around the lapped rider, and almost that was, I think, a bit too close for comfort also for him. But yeah, it is something that has been around for quite some time already. I think that since we started the podcast, that the 80% rule is something that always goes around, and I hope that one day we will see improvements on that level. I think that it is necessary. But then you need some changes, I think, in the people that that are making the rules and stuff. But it's hopefully we will not see these situations influence races. But you obviously have a chance with these type of situations. So I hope that the riders are safe and that nothing happens at the front of the race, and that just everybody can do his race in a safe manner.
Good. Thank you, Issam. 1 down, 9 to go. Thank you for talking about the Exactcross in Mol.
Yes, thank you. It was a pleasure.
We'll be back on Boxing Day with the World Cup in Gavre. Arguably going to be the best race of the season. We'll need to wait and see for that, but I am hoping for a cracker there, both on the men's and the women's side. Thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget about the giveaway we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. and we will see you guys later. Goodbye.